Hey, it's Mackie. I'm back with Hidden Threads podcast. And let me get my cameras fixed here. And we'll say hi to Victoria.
Hey.
Yeah, you're all dramatic. And then you just backed out.
Just hey.
Just hi.
Decided to be a chill
Okay.
guy last second.
All right. So tell me, Victoria, what are we talking about today?
We're gonna dive into the Alabama Private Investigator Board.
Okay, the board. All right. So I'm not an expert in the board. I'm not. Some people maybe be like, why not? I said, well, I don't have time to sit and read documents. Now, I do know a lot about it because I've been a PI here since 2018. And there have been some changes over the years. All right. Number one is The Apprentice, which you just went through.
Yes,
Was it fun?
it's very fun. You
Was
learn
it
a
fun?
lot.
Was
I
it
actually really enjoyed it.
okay? We'll
Um,
talk about the Apprentice stuff here in a bit, but the board they just had a legislative change um, where it goes to the state Congress and they make some changes on what we're doing here and how we're doing carrying out business as private investigators, and that started this year. But the board's been around. Somebody hop on and tell me. I think 2002 is when it first started. Up until then, there was no requirement for licensing for private investigators.
a little scary.
Scary.
Yeah.
So, yep. So, and then there was a licensing requirement for years, and you didn't have to have any background in PI work or police. You just passed the background test, paid the money, or passed the background check,
Mhm.
paid the money, and then took the test and passed it, and you were a PI. All right. For me, coming from a background with special operations background, some police background,
Mhm.
strong military, I was shocked at the low level of professionalism in the industry in the state of Alabama.
Yeah.
I was like, well, they got a board. Maybe they're checking these people out. But I went to my first Alabama Private Investigator Association meeting, which we'll talk about in the next section, and I was shocked. It looked like a ragtag bunch of people. There's about 5% that were professionals
Yeah.
that spoke well. Some of them had had their shirts unbuttoned with gold chains like 1970s disco.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, man, alive. They had their hair. I don't have hair, but their hair blowed and drying back. I don't know. Think of John Travolta in Staying Alive, right?
Yeah.
All right. I was like, what am I getting myself into here? So I made a determination. Then I'm like, well, I'm going to be more professional than the rest of them. And we do that. Yeah, you present well, but through education, we're going to be way more educated and trained than everybody else. And then the board came around. They were pushing it for a few years, and they finally got the state legislature to act, and we upped their requirements here for 2024, which I'm proud of. I like it. All
Me
right.
too.
The You're going to see it's going to be a huge impact in the future. There's an agency requirement. There's some prerequisites to be a PI, just a straight up license off the street, and then you get the apprentice license. All right.
Mhm.
Which one you want to get into first?
I guess start out with The Apprentice, just because I feel like a lot of the people that do call in asking about it, they have no background to just jump into being a P. You know what I mean?
Sure. You
Uh,
didn't have that kind of background.
Absolutely not.
Right.
I was just doing sales my whole life. So
Yeah. And you're still doing sales now.
for sure.
She's saleswoman extraordinaire, y'all. Right here, Victoria Clark. Yeah, the apprentice program. So I'm reading right off the website, Alabama Private Investigator Board website. So don't think I have this memorized. I'm reading it right off their website. We'll get into the apprentice. They define it right out the gate as an individual who is engaged in private investigation under the supervision of a licensed private investigator and who is licensed in accordance with this article. All right. We get a ton of people call in saying, hey, I want to work for Mackey.
So many people.
All right. How many do you think per week? You take a lot of the phone calls.
I'd seriously say like 4 to 5 people a week.
Yeah. My new thing is I've been like, hey, since you want to be an investigator, your first task as an investigator is go find out how. What do you think, Victoria?
Love it. Just type in Alabama PI
Yeah.
application,
Yeah.
apprentice application.
How many people
Steps.
do that and call us back and say, hey, I'm ready to go?
Zero.
Zero.
So far. Maybe
So
someone will surprise us.
they never do, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, if you can't do that on your own, then you're probably not going to work out for me.
Yeah.
So the yeah, so to be an apprentice, we skip down here to it. It starts out with the licensing, and then we'll get to the apprentice. So it says an individual may obtain a license as a private investigator apprentice and work under the supervision of a private investigator. So you work under my supervision. All right.
All the time.
And we have Kay, who's working on this. She hasn't put her application and passed the test yet,
Mm-hmm.
but we're in the process. Um, An applicant for a private investigator apprentice license shall meet all the following criteria to attain a license. You can't skip one of these. Be 18. Are you 18 years old, Victoria?
I am.
Barely?
A little bit.
20,
25.
25? All right. Okay. Be a high school graduate or have your GED. Okay. So you can have either one. You don't have to have a college degree. Some people say, I need a college degree in digital forensics or criminal justice to be a PI. You do not. It helps, but it's not required. An individual issued a private investigator apprentice license shall successfully pass an examination required by the board, which shall be taken during a time period designated by the rule of the board, not sooner than 45 days after initial licensure. Okay. All right. Actually, what they do is you can't get your license till you pass that test, correct?
Right.
That's what I remember. We just went through this with you.
Right.
So, yeah, the test, it's a 50-question test.
Mm-hmm.
I found it easy, but I've been through this my whole life. You coming off the street, what do you think?
If you just read the material, you'll be fine. It's really not a complicated you're not doing math. Like just common sense questions. And if you just read the study guide, you would be able to apply common sense to most of the questions.
Right. From what I remember, so there's a lot of material out there for studying. You got the laws, and then you got the study guide, which is written by Jim Castile, by the way, great investigator out of Birmingham. But that's a lot of information,
it is a lot.
For 50 questions. So you don't have a lot of opportunity to miss questions because you got to make a 70, I believe, 70%.
Yes, 70%.
So you can't miss that many. It's not like some other tests I've taken where it's 250 questions, so you can miss a lot of them.
Right.
So there's not much opportunity, but they're all multiple questions.
Yeah. Multiple choice.
Did I have too much caffeine today?
Maybe.
They're all multiple choice. There's no long answers or nothing like that.
No math.
No mathematics.
Common sense purely.
A lot of law. All right. The biggest thing about that test, I can tell you, is schedule it. Once you get it on the calendar and scheduled, you start studying. If you say I'm going to study and then do it, you'll never take it. You gotta get it, pay the $100 and get it on the calendar. Then that's my biggest advice for somebody looking to do that.
Do the thing. Just do it.
You also have to have a sponsor, which is a licensed private investigator in the state of Alabama. So I'm your sponsor, Victoria. You have to work under me, and we track your hours. So that training, there has to be a 240 hours. All right. 50 of those have to be classroom training. So we do a good mix. So you're getting on-the-job training with business operations, which is one of the categories. All right. You've done some surveillance. You've done a lot of digital and open source. We've done some classroom. All right. We're going to have a lot of classroom coming up in January, so you'll get a lot of those 40 hours for classroom.
Because our licensed investigators, not apprentices, but just investigators, they have to get CEUs every year too.
Sure. So. Yeah. And I'm a certified trainer. So whenever we do our training sessions, those will count as CEUs for them and you as well. So, and it's pretty handy having a certified trainer as a boss, right?
For sure.
All right. Where do I get my CEUs from? That's a good question, right?
Books? I have no idea.
So every year I'd usually do a digital forensics course of some type. We've had another episode on digital forensics. So it's such everything changes, right? There's new software, and I'll take it past year I did it on hacking. The year before that I've got another digital forensic certification I took. So all those count towards CUs, but there's always that requirement for 2 requirements in business ethics, 2 hours of those. So as an apprentice and as a investigator, you have to get 16 hours of continuing education units per licensing period, which is 2 years. 2 of those hours have to be business ethics. So there's a ton of classes out there. I've taken them online before. 2 hours of business ethics classes. They were not that much, $40, and they counted. So, all right, let's continue on the apprentice stuff. A private investigator apprentice shall be trained under the supervision of a sponsor private investigator who has at least 2 years' experience as a licensed private investigator in this state, Alabama, and is certified by the board as a sponsor. So we have that, right? You're covered there. The board may charge a one-time certification fee per sponsor, not exceeding $50. So I paid that. It may, by rule, establish standards for certification, refusing certification, reporting apprentices sponsored, and documentation required by sponsorship. So basically, when it comes time for you to get your license, I'm going to have to submit a letter that says that you've had the requisite hours and time, and you should be recommended for a PI, straight up PI license after the 240 hours, basically 2 years.
Yeah.
All right. So that'll come down the road. Supervision of a private investigator apprentice may be in person, by telephone, or by other form of electronic communication and oversight. So if I wanted to send you out on a case today, I could, right? And we can do supervision by phone, by email, text
I
message.
did not know we could do it by phone and stuff.
We
I
can.
thought you kind of have to be there, but that's
No,
cool.
you do not. So I give you your assignment, coach you up, and say go forth and do good things. And if you have questions, sometimes if this happens with licensed investigators, there's a complex problem.
Mm-hmm.
They ask me to get my opinion while they're there. So yeah, that's supervision, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it can happen. An investigator apprentice shall have 3 years to complete his or her internship. The internship shall consist of both of the following: successful completion of minimum number of hours, experience in the field, and classroom training not exceeding 300 hours. So I said it wrong earlier. It's 260 hours of field training and 40 hours of classroom training. Okay, so total of 300 hours. Yeah. Established by board rules. So I'm reading the rule right now. Classroom instruction shall be provided by a certified trainer and shall include instruction administrative functions, including report writing and research. You think you got the administrative functions down?
For sure. I mean, I feel like the report writing too. Anyone could do it if you just look at examples and listen when you're taught things. You can just apply the stuff you know.
So yeah, I have several videos where me talking about report writing, where I've got the screen up and me just typing reports.
'Cause I've seen some horrible report entries.
Yeah, and I get so of all things I get upset about with investigators is the report entries. If it's halfway done, misspelled words, not written in the proper person.
Even in the study guide, it gives you a perfect example of how to write up a report
Yeah.
entry.
And I think mine matched that pretty well, right? Mm-hmm. So then it talks about here successful completion of minimum of 8 hours per year of continuing education. That's the 16 hours. So 1 year you get 8, one of those hours being business ethics, and the next year you get 8, and one being business ethics. So that's how we do it. Coursework shall include instruction on investigations and minimum of 2 hours of ethics training annually, and may include business operations. So
it's not even really a lot of CEUs.
No,
compared to some other things out there.
Yep. Prior to get your full license, you got to submit proof of successful completion of your internship, which is a letter from me. Okay. Anything else on the? Now you can lose your PI apprentice license. So if you is instructed by a sponsor to perform any action that violates this chapter, which violates the rules, basically the law, you can have that revoked. All right. So me and you both could have our license removed if I told you to go do something illegal.
Gotcha.
So don't do anything illegal.
Can't be a PI if you got crimes of
moral turpitude, felonies. Yes. You can't be a PI. You want to get into what it takes to be a regular straight up PI off the street?
Yeah.
Okay. Hope this isn't boring. I'm just reading right off the manual.
This is some good stuff.
Is it really?
What are you talking about?
Okay. All right.
Everyone wants to be a PI, but doesn't know how to.
Everybody wants to be a PI until the rubber meets the road. I found. We'll talk about that some more. So requirements for a license. So say you come to Alabama and you say, I want to be a PI, and you say, I've got the requisite experience. Here's what it takes. So you got to be 21 years of old, successfully completed a criminal history background check based on criteria established by the board. Basically, you send your fingerprints to the board, and they do a 3-level background check. It's a local, state, and federal background check. Victoria passed somehow or another. I'm not sure. How'd you pass that, Victoria?
Thank God.
She used to be in the cartel, y'all. So no, she never was. She's a boring person from.
No, I've had some charges. I'm surprised I passed for real, but they weren't crimes of moral turpitude.
But now you're a boring person from where? Hazel Green?
New Market.
I've always messed it up. One of those little towns north of Huntsville. Anyways, you can't have been declared by court of competent jurisdiction incompetent by reason of mental defect or disease unless a court of competent jurisdiction has subsequently declared the applicant competent. Whoa.
What?
You can't be nuts, and you can't have some kind of disease that makes you nuts. Does that make sense?
I love how you worded that.
I'm a C student from Fife, Alabama, so that's how I talk. Anyways,
simplified it for me.
Yeah. You can't have a crime of moral turpitude with the board having the final determination on the interpretation of moral turpitude. So a big one I've seen people get turned down for is domestic violence.
Yeah.
Big one. It may not be a felony, but if it's domestic violence, then you're probably not going to get it. And you cannot have been convicted of a felony crime. I've talked to the board about this, the association too, about maybe changing this. Mm-hmm. Probably not going to, but I had a guy come to apply. Great guy. He's in his 60s, but he had a felony from 1980 something.
Mm.
Did a year in jail, a little bit more than a year in jail, and he could not be a PI because of that felony.
I hate that so
I know,
much.
but so maybe we could get some leniency on that, but the felony thing is solid. I don't care if it's committed 1960. You can't do it. You can't be a PI.
I agree with you. I feel like that's
Yeah. Now, if it was yesterday, yeah, go get your life in order.
like a
before.
statute of limitations on it. There
Right.
should be something.
We are trying to hold the PIs to a high standard, so
Yeah.
I get it. And you got to pass the same examination Victoria took with a 70 or higher.
Oh.
So, yep. And you have to have a minimum of 2 years experience, education or training, or a combination thereof, including 120 hours of practical field experience directly related to private investigation. It can come from these areas: special investigations, insurance fraud, fire, arson, banking, legal. Usually your police departments, detectives have that. Also law enforcement, sworn law enforcement officers. Education consisting of a minimum 4-year degree in a field of study directly related to private investigations, including criminal justice, political science, criminology, or law enforcement. An internship consisting of successful completion of private investigator apprenticeship pursuant to this section. That's if you have the internship supersedes all the others. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Does that answer your question on how to be a PI right off the street?
Yes, it does. And then, I mean, with any job, you have to be aware of what you're doing outside of the workplace. But I think that's worth mentioning too. Like, just because you pass all these tests, you still have to carry yourself in a way outside of work to where if you have to go speak in court or, you don't look crazy. Like, you have to hold yourself to a high standard even
Right.
outside of the workplace.
Right. Yeah. So once you get licensed, it doesn't mean you go and do anything you want. We had one PI just down the road here got into an altercation with his wife and got him a domestic violence charge, and they suspended his license until that's rectified. So they take it serious. I'm glad they do. So yeah, anything that happens while you got your license, the board can look at it and remove your license, suspend it for a while till everything's adjudicated. But that's your livelihood. That's how you're making money. So watch how you act and keep yourself in check. Right? Not just in the course of your duties, but just walking around in regular everyday.
And it says
life.
that in the study guide too. Like
Yeah.
you can't just be belligerently drunk with your friends on the weekend. You can still have fun, but like you have to carry yourself in a way that's respectable.
Right. So we got to watch Victoria with that. But
Woo!
anyway, no, seriously, Victoria's boring. She's like an old lady in a 25-year-old body. But
That's true. I lived too much in my young years. So I'm
Good.
calming down.
I'm glad. So let's talk about the agency.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a new one for this year. I had to get an agency license. I'm agency number 2. Mr. Castille's team is number 1.
Oh, okay.
He deserves it. He's been the PI here for a long time. Good
He's
team
like-
of people.
High up. And that study guide, he done like flown planes over places to collect evidence.
Yeah.
and stuff.
Jim's been there and done it, man. Good guy. But maybe we'll get him on here one day.
That'd be so
But
cool.
he's a good guy. They have a nice agency down in Birmingham. But private investigation agency, a corporation, firm, or partnership, or other business entity, could be an LLC, right? Or for compensation, practices private investigation in this state and employs licensed private investigators. The term includes a business entity that practices private investigation through licensed private investigators who are solely independent contractors rather than employees. So how many contractors do we have, Victoria?
What, 5? 4?
I think we got 5.
5.
Yeah, 5. Okay. Spread across the state. So yeah, the board considers those employees. So I have to get an agency license. Okay. Let me scroll down here a little bit. Go to the agency again. It also says, this is new, we were having some trouble with large companies encroaching, coming in Alabama and just setting up shop.
Gotcha.
So it says here now, this year, a business entity and its agents, officers, and employees, whether domiciled within or outside the state, which employ or subcontract with private investigators, may not practice, advertise, or hold themselves out to be to the public as a private investigation agency without first being licensed by the board. A violation of this subsection is by an applicant or a licensee shall be punishable as a Class A misdemeanor. Whoa.
So that's just like territory stuff, right?
Yeah. So you can't just come in here and open up a shop without paying your agency license by the board. Tennessee has the same rules, by the way. So if we wanted to go up in there, we'd have to get an agency license in Tennessee and all those things.
That
So
makes sense.
yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. Okay. It says commencing on January 1st, 2023, no business entity that conducts private investigations for compensation in this state and employs private investigators in this state may operate without a license. So I know it started last year, but I know they really put the foot down this year. Okay.
What's the fine associated with the no license if you're practicing without a license?
Let's look here. It has it written down here.
It's like $1,000. I don't remember.
Disciplinary. How about that? An entity or individual who operates, provides services, or advertises the provision of private investigator services without a license as required by this chapter shall be subject to an administrative fine of up to $1,000 per day that those services were provided or advertised, and may be administratively enjoined by the board from providing services or advertising until in compliance with this chapter. So $1,000 a day.
Heavy hit.
So yeah, I keep up with our investigator CUs and when their license expire.
Mm-hmm.
We had one recently that he didn't go in and pay his fee and get his license renewed. So we had to stop him. He couldn't work anymore. We stopped him before. I said, hey, your license is coming up for renewal in 5 days. Until you get this thing renewed, you can't work anymore. He goes, oh, I forgot about it. I was like, okay.
It's your well-being. You should probably know.
Okay, you're out of work for 40 days until we get this straight. So
Right.
he finally got it going and we're back.
Yeah.
So I think he learned his lesson. But anyway,
There's
I'm not doing it for him. Contractor, you are an independent contractor and it's up to you to do it. Now for you, I keep track of that, and we will be, if I pay for your stuff because you're a full-time employee.
Yeah.
But a contractor, they're independent, and it's responsible for them. So.
And as a contractor and as a professional, you think you would have things organized a little bit better so you could do your job.
You'd be surprised. So.
Yeah.
That's fair. They say that 50% of businesses go out of business within the first year.
I have heard this.
Me being in the business world now, I'm surprised it's not higher.
Really?
Disorganized people are and things.
Yeah.
So, all right. So that covers the Alabama Private Investigator Board. Some new things for this year.
I like that fine.
You like
It's
the fine?
I like that not anyone off the street can just be like, hey, I'm a PI, and then go get paid from someone, and it's just all the big scams. You don't even know what you're doing. Like,
Sure.
It's rough.
So I've had people come to me before and say, hey, I'm licensed. I want to come work for you. All right. And I immediately go to the Alabama Private Investigator Board website, and you can pull their name and see if they're licensed, and they're not. They've even submitted certificates to me saying, hey, look at my license. I go, okay. And while I'm talking to them, I pull my phone up and look, and you can go on the website and put their name. No, they're not. I'm like,
lying to a PI.
I mean,
That's crazy.
and the board's made it so easy to confirm it. So,
Right.
so if you're out there and a PI comes to you, maybe you find them online or whatever, check their credential. Go on Alabama Private Investigator Board website and check them out. See what's going on. See if it's real.
Yeah.
All right.
I feel like people are getting scammed out here.
Sometimes they do.
Yeah.
So, all right, that does it for this episode. We didn't have a commercial break this time, Victoria.
No, we didn't.
We just got all into it. So,
On the grind.
all right, all right. Till next time, we'll see you.
Bye.
Hey, Mackie here. I hope you enjoyed our podcast. I want to talk a little more about what we do in terms of digital forensics. So digital forensics is an interesting aspect of our job, and we're all certified to gather evidence in the digital realm. This means that computers, smartphones, tablets, you name it, we can go in and recover deleted data. Just because they say it's deleted doesn't mean it's deleted. We have the tools and expertise to recover this data. That includes text messages, emails, cloud forensics, you name it. We are certified to take care of this for you. So if you have questions about digital forensics and how it will help your case, give us a call, 866-910-7499, or reach out to us through MackeyOutlaw.com. Thank you.